YouTube, what is good? Yo, check out these 3 photos I recently posted to my Instagram. Now, what if I told you that you could get this exact same effect on your photos? I mean, check out these before and afters. All you gotta do is buy my preset. It'd be kind of a bummer, and I'd feel bad because the result you got from that preset would not look anything like those before and after photos. Maybe in rare circumstances it would. So today we're going to be talking about Lightroom presets. Now in the past, I've trolled on this channel a little bit. I've said, hey, if this video gets 2,000 likes or something like that, I will release my presets, which I've never actually intended on doing that. Come on, it's YouTube. Trying to get thumbs up, which speaking of that, let's get this video to 2,000 thumbs up. Here's why I'm making this video today. Presets are extremely popular in the photo community right now. A lot of people sell them, a lot of people offer them on their website. It's like a cool way, you know, for your audience and your fans to interact with you, support your channel. Here's the problem with presets. It's kind of like a dirty business if you're not doing it the right way. You can simply show someone a before and after photo of an edit and say, this is what my preset does. I'm saving the settings, you can buy those settings. And it looks incredible in that before and after, but when it comes to actually applying that preset to your photo, it's going to be very rare that you get the same result, and there's a lot of reasons why. 1, the camera you're using, the file type. 2, the shooting conditions, the lighting conditions, you know, the weather, the white balance, the colors. Literally everything that goes into making the photo outside the editing can affect the way that preset applies to your photo. And now I don't want this video to come off as me bashing people who sell presets or anything like that. Not the case at all. If you want to sell presets, go for it. It's completely fine. And a lot of creators on YouTube, they do a great job of explaining how to use their preset properly, how you need to manipulate the photo once you apply the preset, all that good stuff. But sadly, there's a lot of people who don't do that, and they just sell a preset, sell this dream to people, and they get it on their computer, and the result is nothing like what they expect. So I took the settings from that night photo, I created a preset in Lightroom. We are going to apply that preset to 3 photos, and it is going to look terrible. It's going to look very bad, and I'm going to show you guys what you can do to fix it. So if you're someone who is purchasing a preset, you apply it to your photo, and you think this just looks absolutely terrible, hopefully after this video you'll kind of know how you can correct it and use that preset as more of a starting point instead of a crutch. So let's jump into Lightroom. I'll show you what I do, and yeah, let's get to it. So now we're in Lightroom. We got 3 photos that we're going to use as an example today. Now I'm going to apply the same exact settings to the preset that we made from the examples I showed earlier from that night photo. We're going to say that hypothetically you saw my example, my before and after, and said, yo, those photos look great. I want that on my photos. So you buy it and you apply it to your photo, and that don't look like the examples you saw on the internet. So the first thing we're going to do, if you ever buy a preset and it has a customized white balance, not good. You don't want that. Go ahead and just take it back to as shot, and then we'll adjust it accordingly. So already our photo at least is not this giant blue mess. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring this contrast way down. I don't know what's going on in this preset to make the contrast so intense, but we don't need all that. So contrast, we're good. And also you see the exposure is brought up +5. I guess that was what I did in that original photo that I built this preset off of. We don't need that for this image because it is well lit. All right, so moving on, I think the next thing we can do is bring up our shadows. So we're gonna bring the shadows to right about here. I think that looks good. Go ahead, keep our whites where they're at. And we still have a ton of contrast in this photo, so I'm gonna bring my blacks back up to 0, kind of balance everything out. I think that looks much better. Now we can go back into our white balance and kind of make some adjustments accordingly. So I'm gonna cool this image down just a little bit. I think to right about there. That looks pretty good, and we'll leave that there. So now we're going to go down to these color adjustments. So this preset has a bunch of color adjustments built in. We're going to need to adjust and customize these colors accordingly so they work better in our particular photo. So what I'm going to do is just go through these one by one. So I think these reds, they're pretty much good. There's not a ton of red in this image. These oranges are giving us a problem. Notice the skin tone right here and the grass color over here. It's way, way, way too orange. So I'm going to bring this more towards the yellow side. I think right about there looks good. Gonna bring the saturation just back to 0, and we'll keep the luminance where it's at. We're gonna do the exact same thing with the yellows. Yellows and oranges, they kind of work together. We still have some orangeness going on over here. So we're gonna slide this back to the yellow side. I think right around there looks cool, and we'll go ahead and leave the saturation and luminance where it is. We can go ahead and leave the greens where they're at. I think that looks good. We can leave the aquas and the blues where they're at. And you know what? I think that's pretty much it. So now we'll go down, see what else is going on. I think split toning was used. We'll turn it off, turn it back on. You know, I think it looks okay. And maybe we'll adjust the balance of it a little bit, maybe to right there. Maybe bring the saturation of the shadows down just a little bit. And I think that looks pretty good. Keep scrolling down. There's an adjustment to our vignette. You guys know I can't say that word. Maybe we'll add a little bit of feather to kind of soften that up. Maybe we'll go up to the crop right here. Go ahead and crop this in just slightly. Have a little bit less negative space at the top. And bang. I think we can go ahead and call that one done. So there's a few other things I might do to this photo. I might take out some trash over here, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to move on to the next image, which is this photo right here, which is of my buddy Aaron up in the Smoky Mountains. So we're going to go ahead and apply our preset that we bought. Once again, we got this crazy Smurf looking effect. We're going to go ahead and go back to at shot. Going to go ahead and crop this photo really quick to right about there. Fill the frame a little bit better. Looking good. Now, once again, we have about the same issues on this photo as we had before. We don't need this contrast adjustment, so we're going to bring this down to right about there. But I am going to leave in this adjustment to our exposure. If you noticed at the beginning of the photo, when it was unedited, it was a little bit dark. It was slightly underexposed, so we could expose for this sky right here. So bringing up our exposure actually works in this image. I'm going to leave that where it's at. This highlight adjustment, I'll go ahead and leave where it's at. I think the sky looks really good. Gonna bring up our shadows though to kind of expose Aaron a little bit more. Gonna bring him up a lot. Now, not everyone's camera can do this. Luckily for me, the Nikon D810 has very good dynamic range and I'm able to bring out a lot of those shadows. Gonna bring this black adjustment up because we do not need it. I think that looks pretty good right there. Everything's looking good so far. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off this color adjustment just to see what everything looks like. And I think it looks much better with no adjustments to the colors. And we're going to do the same thing with the split tone. Don't think we need the split tone either. I think it looks much better without it. And then the last thing we're going to do is check this white balance again, maybe make a small adjustment to it. I think I'm going to cool off the photo just slightly, maybe to right there. And leave it at that, and I think this one is now done. A much quicker edit, but this thing looks great, and we used that preset that you bought or hypothetically bought as a starting point. From there to there only took us like 2 minutes. So now we are on to our third and final example of this tutorial. This is a photo I made for Epitome ATL recently. We were doing like a lookbook. We purposely shot it in the middle of the day to kind of get a more lifestyle vibe, hence the harsh shadows that we're going to have to deal with in editing. So first thing I'm going to do is apply that preset, and once again we're dealing with this ridiculous blue cast. We're going to go back to white balance as shot, get us to a better starting point. Next thing I'm going to do just off top is crop this photo slightly, bring them into the center a little more, and remove some distractions from the outside of the image. Now, once again, we don't need this adjustment to our exposure, but we have all this extra contrast. So we're going to bring our contrast way down on this photo to try to balance everything out. I think that looks pretty good. Now, once again, we're going to bring our shadows up a lot on this photo to try to deal with those harsh shadows being created by the sun. I think that looks pretty good. We're going to bring our whites up quite a bit on this photo as well. I think right about there looks pretty good. And we'll go ahead and leave our highlights where they're at, and our blacks we're going to bring up just a little bit to right about here because once again we don't need that much contrast. So that looks really good off top. I think that looks much better than it did when we started. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring our tint a little bit over to the green side, just slightly. There we go. I think that looks a little bit more balanced. Now we're going to jump down to our colors and our split toning again. So right here, there's some adjustments I want to make to the colors because I don't exactly like how this looks with its native colors. And I'm going to go ahead and check the split toning as well. don't know if the split toning is necessary, so for now I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. We might turn it back on later once we go through the editing process. So we're going to go back up to the top, and I'm going to adjust these color channels accordingly. Reds, I think we can leave where they're at. Once again, our oranges, we're going to need to make some changes to. So I'm going to double click this hue, bring it back to where it started, and I'm going to double click this luminance and bring that back to where it started. So now let's slide this around and figure out if we want to make any changes. I think the color is pretty spot on right here at 0. So what I'm going to do is bring this luminance up a little bit just to try to brighten up the shirts, make it pop a little more, make their skin pop a little bit more. Now we're going to make some adjustments to our yellows, make sure everything is right down here. Just going to slide this around, figure out if it looks how we want it to look. I think it looks pretty decent. We can probably go ahead and leave these yellows where they're at. There's a little bit of green in the background. I'm going to bring my greens a little back to the green side, probably right around there. Bring the saturation up just a little bit to get some pop of color in the photo. Now our aquas and our blues, let's see. Our aquas are way down. Do we need to change those? I'm going to bring the saturation on our aqua up a little bit, and I'm going to bring the saturation on our blue up a little bit as well. Get the sky really popping. I might bring it slightly over here to the hue, to the teal side, excuse me, to try to get some contrast in the sky with that orange. We have a teal sky, orange shirts. I think right around there looks pretty good. And I think we can go ahead and call that. I'm going to scroll back down here. We have a bunch of vignette added to the photo, which I don't think we need on this image, so I'm going to bring this back up here, and I think that image is good. I don't think we're going to add in this split tone that came with the preset. Let's turn it on and off. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that where it's at. So with that, I think this photo is done as well, and we can go ahead and call it complete. So there we go. That is it for today's video. I hope anyone out there who might have bought presets and wasn't getting the result they were looking for has some insight into what they can do to adjust the presets. It's all really about just looking at the photo and understanding, okay, this is wrong, I need to fix it. It's a little bit easier than looking at a blank canvas thinking, how am I going to paint it? And that's what's so great about presets, is they do give you a solid starting point every time. You can look at the photo and say, this is wrong, we need to adjust accordingly, and you usually end up with a result that looks nice. And if you've never bought any presets, I hope this video gives you some insight into how they can work, and that no preset is a one-stop shop. That's it for this one, guys. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button for more, and feel free to chat in the comments about your views on presets, people selling them, all that good stuff. I still have no plans to sell my presets, but hey, I might troll it a little bit more so I can get more thumbs up. So that's it for me, guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.